Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers, the New York Jets, and free agency. So, as we know, the Jets decided to move on from Aaron Rodgers. I think it was a ridiculous decision. I think it was as dumb as it gets. You bring this guy, Aaron Glennon, and here's a guy who's never been a head coach in the NFL, no experience as a head coach, and he has the opportunity to walk into a locker room and coach Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. And he decides against it. He basically says, you know what, we're just going to go into it blindly and just hope we pick up somebody in free agency or the draft. Maybe Justin Fields or, Jackson Dart, Shador Sanders. So, it's just pretty ridiculous if you ask me. Now, you basically go into it with nothing, without a plan. They don't even know what they're going to do. And, you hear all these people talking about Aaron Rodgers. Oh, he's washed up. He's terrible. We're talking about a guy who's coming off an Achilles injury, as we all know. And listen, I'm going to go through the same things you've all been hearing from people that think that Aaron Rodgers should still be with the New York Jets. 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, um, coming off the Achilles injury. But really, when you look at the Jets this past year, it was just about the worst situation any quarterback could ask for. I mean, so depleted on the defensive side of the ball. We're talking about Jermaine Johnson getting injured second game of the year. C.J. Mosley was out for more than half the year. Then you had this bozo Hassan Reddick asking for Miles Garrett type money. Max Crosby type money. I mean, this is how high of an opinion this guy had of himself. Then comes in there, he just gets tossed around like a rag doll. As a lot of us expected. He's a guy who's really just a situational player, good in pass rushing situations. Not going to do much to stop the run. So once Jermaine Johnson goes out in that second week of the season, now you're starting defensive ends on paper, and these guys really couldn't be in the game together at the same time. But on paper, it was Will McDonald on one side and Hassan Reddick on the other. I mean, how are you winning games like that when the next guy up is Michael Clemens? You understand? And we saw how he performed this year. You know, so I don't know who's winning with that team. You know, I don't know who's winning with that team. Bring Joe Montana in his prime back. Bring Brady in his prime to the New York Jets. They ain't winning with that team. You know what I'm saying? And then you look at the special teams. Obviously, that lost them at least 3 games, I believe it was. Um, Tyron Smith, left tackle, ended up getting injured, and luckily for the Jets, he did, because they'd have been better off without him for sure. And Fashion, who came in, and he did a better job. And then that's a rookie left tackle that they were playing with there, and like I said, Jets really just had everything going against them. The running game really wasn't that efficient. Brees Hall, okay, pretty good running back. Braylon Allen, decent running back as well, but nothing spectacular in that department. So as far as Aaron Rodgers being released, when you talk about like an old quarterback, right, and he just doesn't have it anymore, really you would base that off their physical abilities. Their ability to get the proper velocity on the ball, to drive the ball down the field. Not something that Aaron Rodgers had a problem with this year at all. Still able to make all the throws on the field. The accuracy is still there. The ball placement is exceptional. One of the things I will say is he seemed to be rushing the ball a lot this year. He was, I don't know if that had to do with the pass protection early on in the year. Maybe it was the injury, where he just wasn't as comfortable taking hits as he was in the past. So I'm not saying it was, everything was perfect as far as Aaron Rodgers was concerned. But when I look at this past season, I look at the Minnesota game and I look at the Pittsburgh game. It's the 2 games where he really performed poorly. And every other game, I don't know. I didn't really, you know, see any reason to want to get rid of this guy. I thought he played pretty well in just about every game except for those 2. We know in the Minnesota game he had 3 interceptions, but he still put up a lot of yards and they moved the ball. He gave this team a chance on the offensive side of the ball. What is it? The third best season, second best season in Jets history. So I mean, what are you looking for as a Jets fan? I mean, these Jets fans are so unbelievable. They've been losing for so damn long. It's like they're actually starting to enjoy it, and now it's like, oh well, we'll just get rid of them and we'll rebuild, and hopefully we win 7 or 8 games. That's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking for. Just unbelievable, man. They want Justin Fields. The guy's lost his job in Chicago. Then he loses his job in Pittsburgh. I mean, the guy was what? What were they, 4-2? And they said, hey, we still got to get rid of this guy. So he can't throw the ball at all, man. He's just not a good passing quarterback. And a lot of people, for whatever reason, I guess maybe it's that Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl. Now they feel like every quarterback's got to run at least a 4.640, or they don't belong in the league. The game is changing. You need a running quarterback. So, historically, we know running quarterbacks have not succeeded, as far as Super Bowls are concerned. Michael Vick, Robert Griffin III. Now, Lamar Jackson, obviously, he's, just had exceptional seasons. Still hasn't won a Super Bowl, but look what he's got with him. Look at the guy he's got behind him running the ball, and Derrick Henry. I think any quarterback is going to benefit from that guy, and he's going to make them look a lot better. Historically, the running quarterback has not really succeeded. And when you look at the Eagles, they were talking about benching Jalen Hurts. The fans wanted this guy benched early on in the season, and you're hearing that term now being tossed around, game manager, as far as Jalen Hurts is concerned. And listen, it would have been hard to lose that Super Bowl. I know he won a lot of games throughout the year. They had a great season. And nothing against him. He made a lot of big throws in that Super Bowl, and deserves a lot of credit for his performance. But at the same time, when you got that front seven that Philly had, I think it's going to be hard to lose there. You got Saquon Barkley in the backfield. So let's not give this guy too much credit. Did his job, definitely, and definitely deserves the ring. But this whole talk about needing a guy who can run, and it's preposterous. Look at two of the guys with the two best seasons, I would say, for quarterbacks this year was Joe Burrow and Jared Goff. Definitely not track stars by any means. So if I'm looking for a quarterback, I want a guy that can throw the football. Okay? And everybody's talking about Aaron Rodgers is washed up from the film that I've seen, right? Because I actually watched the film. I don't just go off what the media is saying. I'm looking at one of the best passers in the league right now. When you're talking about pocket passes, this is a guy that you want. Now, all the other things, the age, is he going to be able to remain healthy? I think that's something you just got to take a chance with. I think that's a risk you're going to have to take, because everybody is susceptible to that. And you talk about running quarterbacks, they're more susceptible to getting injured than a guy who's staying in the pocket. And as far as athleticism is concerned, he made a lot of plays with his legs this year. Now, not necessarily gaining yards, rushing, but, he definitely scrambled and got out of the pocket to make a lot of plays. So it wasn't like he was a complete statue. Like a Tom Brady or something like that. Definitely not by any means. Had one game, I think it was Jacksonville. I think he ran for like 45 yards. So, I mean, there's still some glimpses of that athleticism that we saw from him earlier on in his career. But, as far as the Jets are concerned, if you're a Jets fan, you shouldn't be expecting much. Like I said, for whatever reason, these guys seem satisfied to just have a few more losing seasons. And you bring this guy Aaron Glenn in now, right? And, he's rebuilding. He's going to get plenty of time to rebuild this team, right? You're going to give him at least a couple years, 3 years, whatever it is. A guy who has no experience coaching, right? He's going to get all the time in the world to try and build this program, to create this culture, right? But the Hall of Fame quarterback, top 5 quarterback of all time, he gets 1 year. With everything going against them, injuries, special team failures, poor performance from the offensive line, like I spoke about already. He gets 1 year. I mean, that's just such a foolish decision. I would think if you're Woody Johnson, you give it one more shot. At least you can try and salvage something out of it. At least you can try and defend your actions this year of kind of catering to this guy and giving him Adams and bringing in Lazard and things of that nature. And say I told you so. It's a situation where, and I feel like this team is ready to win now with a legitimate quarterback, and some some good personnel as far as receivers are concerned as well. But you eliminate Devontae Adams and Rodgers from the equation. Now you need a quarterback and a wide receiver. So you're just creating more needs for your team. I just don't understand it at all. But when you look at the defensive side of the ball, you get Jermaine Johnson back now, and just having him back is just so important because now you have a guy that could actually stop the run there. Whereas last year, really all you had was Quinn Williams on that defensive line. That was like your only hope to stop the run was Quinn Williams. Will McDonald, Hassan Reddick, they're not going to do much in that department. So, I feel like the Jets were ready to win. Just a few more, a few acquisitions, and they could have been playing in the playoff game this next season. But it doesn't look likely that they will. Maybe they could win 6 or 7 games. I don't know, but hey, if you're a fan, you should be trying to win Super Bowls. You ain't doing that with Justin Fields. You're not doing that with Shador Sanders. And, now we're just going to have to wait and see where Aaron Rodgers goes. And it looks like it's going to be the New York Giants. And it's going to be pretty interesting, man. I think it's going to be pretty interesting. Now, a lot of people would say, man, what's he thinking going to the New York Giants? But when you look at that team, they got a few pieces to that puzzle, man. There's a few pieces that, you could really work with, and I think you could build something, with the New York Giants. I think you could be competing pretty quickly, and just kind of working towards getting to the playoffs. I think they have a chance of making the playoffs this next season, with the addition of Aaron Rodgers, maybe, pick up some guys in free agency, and they're going to have the third pick. So I would say with the third pick, the best case scenario for the New York Giants would be Abdul Carter sliding down to 3. Now, I don't know how likely that is. I don't know the possibility of him, dropping down that far. But if he's there, I think you got to take him. Now, the choice is not going to be there to really pick between Hunter and Carter, in my opinion. The reason you would get Carter is because the Browns took Hunter, or the reason you would get Hunter is because the Browns and Titans took Carter. So, really, that decision is going to be made by the team that goes before the Giants. They're not even going to really have much of a decision there. It's either going to be Hunter or Carter. And, I think that both of those guys would be great for the Giants right now. As far as who do I think will be more effective to start, or, who will be more effective first season coming into the league, I think Abdul Carter is just the more NFL ready guy, in my opinion. Not to say that Hunter can't come in and produce right away, but if Carter's on the board, man, you got to take him. And I just hope the Giants don't go and take a kid like Shador Sanders, who I don't think is going to turn out to be a very good quarterback in the NFL. Just way too many deficiencies there. You're talking about a guy who doesn't have arm strength, who doesn't have, great athleticism. I'm thinking this guy's probably going to run somewhere in the neighborhood of a 4.8 40. From what I've seen, struggled to drive the ball downfield. Held onto the ball for quite a long time. Seemed like he was dropping back way too far in the pocket. I don't know. I'm just not high on Shador Sanders at all. So yeah, I just really hope that the Giants kind of take Rodgers and just kind of go for broke. It's a situation where Daboll needs to win now if he wants to keep that job. So he's going to be desperate. And there's no rebuilding phase for Brian Daboll. He's got to win right now. So the other possibility for Rodgers would be Minnesota. I think it's a good fit. Definitely, if Aaron Rodgers had the choice, he's going to pick Minnesota over the Giants, I would have to assume. When you look at that roster, Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, who wouldn't want to play with those guys? And we saw the season that they had last year. And yeah, if you're winning with Sam Darnold, I mean, I can only imagine how well you're going to do with Aaron Rodgers. So that would probably be his first choice. But, the New York Giants, I think that they'll be ready to compete for the playoffs this year with Aaron Rodgers and maybe Devontae Adams, because you have to also factor in that they're going to be getting the third pick in the draft. And that's either going to most likely be Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, unless they make the foolish decision of taking a quarterback. You know? Which I don't think they'll do. I don't think they do. Like I said, this guy, Schoen and Dable, they want to win now. And the best way to do that is to get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. Try to pick up maybe a cornerback in free agency. They're talking about Jonathan Allen maybe. There's going to be a few defensive tackles where they can bolster that defensive line. And if you add Jonathan Allen to that defensive line and possibly get Abdul Carter, you'd have Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, and Jonathan Allen. I mean, have fun going up against that defensive line. Just it would change the whole complexion of things for the New York Giants. So a lot of things they can do to really improve and be competitive next year. So something that I'm really looking forward to. It's going to be exciting. Free agency starts tomorrow. The 10th negotiations begin. And, we can see how things play out. But, just as far as Aaron Rodgers is concerned, I feel like, the opinions of him are based on a lot of things that don't have to do with football. I just watched this show. It's this guy, Nick Wright. I don't watch much of this stuff. But he, I heard him talking and he goes, after this season, I think Brett Favre is now better than Aaron Rodgers. Because he had a final act, and he was talking about his time with Minnesota, had that great season, had Adrian Peterson, who I think is the most dominant running back of all time, right? Adrian Peterson. It's like I talked about Lamar Jackson, as good as he is, when you're playing with a guy like Derrick Henry, or you're playing a guy like Adrian Peterson, it makes your life so much easier as a quarterback. I mean, the defense are always expecting to run, they're stacking the box, So, and he was saying that he thinks that Brett Favre is better than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the turnover machine and his final act with Minnesota was one of the worst interceptions in the history of the league. You're in the conference championship game, throws the ball across his body. All he's got to do is run for a couple yards or even throw it out of bounds. Give your kicker a chance from 55 yards, which would have been more than makeable, indoors, in the Superdome. And this bozo is talking about he thinks that now, because of a 28 touchdown, 11 interception season, on a team that performed horribly, you had a terrible supporting cast this guy had, now Brett Favre is better than Aaron Rodgers. This is who these people are listening to. This is who the public is listening to and who they're basing their opinions on. These are the guys that, they're using to, decide whether Aaron Rodgers is suitable for an NFL team moving forward. So just ridiculous. I mean, if you compare the stats between Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, the comparison is actually laughable. We're talking about a guy who was, I don't know, I think it was like, I can't even, Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's ever thrown more than 15 interceptions. Brett Favre has done it countless amounts of times. He's had seasons where he's thrown more interceptions than touchdowns, or just as many. So, I mean, just the comparison, it's just laughable. And it's just like, where are these guys coming up with these things? And then the host of the show, later on in the episode, I don't know his name exactly. It's a show with this guy, Nick Wright, Chris Broussard, and then there's the guy in the middle, the host of the show, whatever he is. And they start talking about San Francisco and the possibility of Aaron Rodgers going to San Francisco. And the guy goes, well, how could he beat Brock Purdy in a quarterback competition? Brock Purdy, this guy, he goes, if they had one of those skills challenges like they have it in the Pro Bowl, I don't think Aaron Rodgers would beat Brock Purdy in one of those challenges. I mean, this guy is so deluded. He's so deluded that he is comparing now Aaron Rodgers' ability to throw a football to that of Barack Purdy. Yes, you heard that right. I mean, now anyone who knows football knows exactly how ridiculous that is. And then Nick Wright and the other guy, Chris Broussard, they're just silent. They don't even intervene and say, hey, whoa, 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 hold on a second. I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers might be able to throw the ball farther with his left hand than Brock Purdy can with his right. I mean, we saw against Buffalo, right? Hail Mary before the end of the half. Just about 65 yards in the air, and he's getting air under it. It's not like he's going for distance. He's just trying to get the ball up there so his receiver can make a catch. So he's still throwing the ball 65 yards at least. I would wager it's closer to 70 yards still. Now, Brock Purdy, I don't think I've ever seen him throw a ball past 50 yards. As far as the accuracy, I mean, we're talking about one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the history of the game. So, I mean, like, where are they even getting these opinions from? I mean, it's just like they don't even base it off of game film. Just watch the film on Aaron Rodgers. Like I said, he had the poor game against Minnesota. Then he had that game against Pittsburgh. Really wasn't a bad game overall. He just had that terrible interception, terrible decision before half when they were up 9 points. So, aside from that, I thought he had a pretty solid year. And, just looking forward to see where he goes from here. And just looking forward to see what happens in free agencies across the league. So, that's about it. Have a good one.